577 schools countrywide which have been vandalized, damaged, and burned. We have 463 schools in KZN, 336 schools in Gauteng, and indeed this is very disturbing. It's a disturbing trend that will set us back in our efforts of trying to get back and even to maintain our infrastructure. We again appeal to members of the public to help the police and to also work with the Department of Education to make sure that we really bring the perpetrators to book. On the state of readiness. Yesterday I met with the Council of Education MECs, ministers, and we considered the latest reports on the state of readiness for the reopening of schools. And CM did note the progress that has been made so far and also what has been received in schools. We did note that senior management teams have received materials required. And I must emphasize this, Chair, that the materials, those 2 sanitizers, were sent for SMT, they're not for school. So people are saying 2 bottles of sanitizers for the entire schools. Those were sent for managers who were expected in schools, because we can't, with all this vandalism, we can't send our stock far in advance because it will not be very safe. But as a sector, based on the reports that we received with the MECs, we are confident that the opening of schools across the province will happen as outlined in the plans that we have developed. The reports that we received were showing that preparations have been taking place and good progress has been made. All indications are that the preconditions for the reopening of schools are going to be met. And the delivery of all the essentials is being done, not necessarily to schools, but to safe places like warehouses. And that's what we're monitoring to say, has this province received its masks? Where are they? And when are they going to go to schools? So there is monitoring at that level. And we have received reports from provinces that orders have been placed and deliveries are beginning to happen. So the items that, amongst others, that we have ordered, which are beginning to arrive in schools, are your essentials like your sanitizers, your masks, your water and sanitation. And of course, schools will be cleaned, and most are being cleaned currently. The CM agreed that provinces have to move at the same pace, and we have emphasized the need to pay special attention to the health and safety of all learners, teachers, and employees in the schools. Earlier today, again, we met with teacher unions and school governing bodies. Again, we updated them on the progress thus far about the plans, and we have agreed that next week, when we already do a countdown, we will also give them the latest report about the countdown. One of the major things that has really arisen around the plans for our reopening were around issues of comorbidities. Because the department, whilst working with the Department of Health, it has had to profile all its workers and issue guidelines to guide them on how to work or manage all these underlying challenges around health, which the Department of Health has guided on. So we are working with the Department of Public Service on this, in this aspect, and we also urge parents to work closely with the schools to ensure that learners with pre-existing illnesses are also assisted. Schools will work with parents to obtain the information, which once again needs to be treated with the utmost care. And the matter which is paramount, we appeal, is cooperation in this regard. The other matter we had to address was around the provision of water. Again, we have profiled all the schools with the shortages of water or with very challenging supply of water. So we have entered into an implementation protocol with the Department of Water and Sanitation, and we are working together to ensure that no school goes without water. We will have what we call just-in-time delivery, so that even if we had not delivered today, but by the time we get to the school, with the countdown from next week, we will be able to say how many tanks and tankers have been deployed to schools. But it has also become very clear that the virus has forced us to re-engineer the basic education system. The fundamental review of the system has become very necessary if we are to minimize the impact on the sector in the long term. However, In the short term, and in keeping with the goal of managing the academic year, we have come up with several measures to help the sector recover lost time whilst ensuring that we protect and ensure the safety of our learners. The amount of time that is available is going to be determined by the date in which we face the other grades. We also had said we expect, when I made the announcement here, that we expect SMTs to arrive on the 4th, but because of challenges around ordering and the arrival of SMT of safety materials, we've had to postpone the arrival of SMTs to a week, therefore even postponing the arrival of teachers with a week. From the reports, all provinces indicated that they will start receiving their teachers from the 25th, not on the 18th as we had planned. We also had to look at the question of school nutrition, and which has been adjusted, and will be aligned also to our phase-in approach. So for learners who will be reopening on the 1st of June, we have put measures in place to make sure that indeed the food handlers have been provided with your protective equipment, including gloves, aprons, and face cloths. They've also been trained in terms of how to manage food differently under the environment, and indeed feeding will happen when the first phase comes in. Also, what we had to look at was transport, and we are working with the Department of Transport to ensure that the safety protocols are maintained, i.e. that everybody sanitizes hands before entering a bus, they all wear masks, the safe distance, and this will monitor closely or together in partnership with the Department of Transport. On the schools reopening, the National Coronavirus Command Council and Cabinet have approved the reopening of schools as of June 1, 2020. Independent and public ordinary schools will open even in the metropolitan areas, because there was also some, I have to correct this, misinformation about the fact that some schools, because it came in the Sunday Times, and I don't know where it came from, it possibly is a leaked document of our earlier discussions or projections, that all schools, even in metropolitan schools, that's what our plan, they will reopen when other schools are reopening. And what we are looking at is even going beyond that, but we'll announce going beyond 7 and 12, but we'll announce that later. But what I want to emphasize is that indeed, as we were planning, as much as we were reporting at different times, that schools will reopen on the 1st of June. We will start with grade 7s and 12, but also we will also look at small schools and special schools differently, because we may not be able to use the same measurement for all those other sectors, and we will give details again during the course of the month. So all learners, educators, and support staff will receive orientation and training at the start of the school reopening, which starts for grade 7s and 12. We are aware that the impact of the virus also, or the lockdown on families and societies in general, has really created unprecedented pressure and anxiety, and therefore we put plans in place to make sure that we can provide social, mental, psychological, and emotional support. We're working close with the Department of Health and the Department of Social Development. In addition to this, the basic education sector, using its own psychologists and social workers who had prior training on counseling, will also come on board to assist us. The other question that has been coming to the fore to say, when are we gazetting the new the new school calendar? We had, as I said last time, that we had to get permission from the NCC that indeed our plans are accepted. Now that it has been approved that we can start opening schools from the 1st of June, the revised school calendar will be gazetted soon, and it will indicate the opening and closing dates and the breaks between, and we'll work with provinces to make sure that no school is left behind. Because the 2020 academic calendar is going to have impact for the 2021 school calendar. And we need to already advise communities and parents in particular about the changes of what will happen next year. On special schools, during consultations with social partners, it became clear that we need a different approach when it comes to special schools. And we are working with organizations who are leaders in that sector, advising us on the best way forward regarding the phased approach of special schools. Because as we might all be aware that some special schools are also therapeutic centers for learners with special disabilities. Therefore, their long absence from school may even affect their health. So we are looking differently at how we are going to manage special schools and make sure that we don't make their lives or put their lives at risk by closing for a very long time. On early childhood development, again, the easing of the lockdown restriction has also seen by many more people in addition to those providing essential services returning to schools. Because as I said last time, that schools are not only tuition centers, but schools are also social centers which provide support to communities around childcare. So as we plan through the NCC to move to level 3, early childhood development is being considered. I am in discussions with the Minister of Social Development to make sure that indeed we can announce a plan around the reopening or the management of the phasing in of ECD earlier than we had anticipated. So, Chair, I want to take this opportunity to really thank all the people who have communicated with us, all the people who have been giving us advice, and all the people who have been supporting us in this process. It indeed was not an easy process. But I also want to thank my colleagues from provinces, because the whole burden of preparations has been falling on their shoulders. I also want to thank the HODs in different provinces led by you, DG. But I also want to extend my gratitude to civil society, to our partners in education, our teacher unions, our SGBs, and this morning we also had an opportunity to engage with students around our plans to reopen schools on the 1st of January. And we do trust we'll continue to walk the journey together. We have only just begun. There is a lot of work that lies ahead of us, and the biggest task will be monitoring. As in all other previous occasions, all the plans, the standard operating procedures, the guidelines and relevant documents will be made available on the DBE website as soon as they're available. Because it is important for accountability to make sure that people don't ask me for accountability from the streets to say, Minister must tell us the following. I'll tell you in advance. I will put on the website, please go there. Don't go to either the media to say, I must tell you what to do. I'm your employee, I'm your servant, so I have all the responsibility to make sure that at all times the public is kept informed and that all of us in government are accountable. I have also appointed a consortium of independent monitors to help us, because under the conditions that we find ourselves in, we are unable to move and go province by province and verify some of the information that we are receiving. So the consortium, which is independent, has auditors, has call centers, will assist us to verify information, but will also assist the public, especially school principals, to communicate with us in case they encounter they encounter challenges. So what's going to happen is we're going to have auditors which give us a schedule to say, from week 25, we're delivering tankers, here's your schedule, and the auditors will have to give me a report to say, indeed, it's happening. On the other hand, the principals themselves, who are the anchors of the system, should be able to have a channel through which they communicate with us, but also with the province, and make sure that we can mitigate any risk that may happen, because it could be possible that challenges may come on the way, and because of the dangers and the challenges that are brought by the virus, it is important to get everything right, and therefore communication becomes critical. So again, this consortium will have an independent call center through which principals in particular parents in particular will also be able to communicate with us and make sure that indeed we prevent any situation where we're not able to meet the obligations, our obligations, though we're trying at all costs, Chair, to make sure that we really put all the necessary systems and can ensure the safety of our learners, our teachers, and our workers in our facilities. Thank you very much.